Got a new bike in the garage. Technically 995 cubic centimeters, but this is a 1984 Yamaha XT600. And for its age, it's in pretty good shape with the exception of the seat cover here. No cracks in the plastic. The rims aren't dinged up or cracked or dented. The graphics even on the swing arm are pretty good. On the tank, I don't think there's a single dent. There's only a few small scratches. Cap is broken a little bit. It's got 10,246 original miles. The key is included in this. The handlebars have a little bit of rust, but no bends. It does look like it sat out in the sun for a little bit. The boot is actually tore here and pretty faded. Probably the worst damage on this bike is the previous owner had dropped this on the pipe when it was hot and melted it a bit. The pipe's not dented up at all. It still has the original bag. There is a small crack here in the taillight lens and a small crack here on the rear fender. And I do have the title for it, so I'll be taking it down to the DMV to get a plate for it soon. My plan is to start motorcycle camping on this thing. I've been camping with a motorcycle, but I haven't ever ridden a motorcycle from home out and set up camp. And this will be my first bike that will allow me to do that. The horn button's missing. Nothing's dripping on the floor, which is a good sign. A little bit of surface rust in there. It's not bad. We might try to clean that up a little bit eventually, but for now, this will work just fine. There's not a lot of wear. Still has these little rubber ends and no cracks, no dry rot. Dual sport tires, but these are a little bit more dirt focused. Still even has the little blue line on it. Same with the back. Tires also relatively new. A lot of tread left on there. That's interesting. Was there like some weights on this thing? Maybe the wheel's a little out of balance. Well, for one, save on gas. This bike supposedly gets around 60 miles a gallon. It's the MB5 or the NU50. This thing gets around 100 miles a gallon. It did come with a few extra parts. It came with an extra ignition coil, and it did come with a fork rebuild kit. The suspension's a little soft. Kind of got some pogo action happening in the front especially, so I will get to that. And when I do that, I'll get new boots as well. I got a really good deal on it. These bikes don't sell for much. I suspect they're at a market bottom. I can't see the value of these bikes getting much lower in everyone's area. Just look up how much an XT Yamaha costs. This bike's got this weird dual carb setup. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. When you turn the key on, nothing lights up. None of the electronics are working. The horn doesn't blare. Obviously the button's missing, but I don't think it would be working even if it were there. So let's start with digging into the electronic stuff first. Let's get started by taking the seat off and the side plastic so we have access to the battery. Normally bikes of this age have a lot of rust around the bolts. This bike, I really don't see much rust at all on every bike, regardless of age. But look at that seat pan, perfect condition. All right, there we go. Absolutely no damage on it. It has even a little bit of information on emission control stuff, things like ignition, timing, engine speed at idle. Take the ground off first. And we'll remove the positive end. The battery strap even looks in good shape. These tend to get cracked over the decades. 12 volt. You could tell from the 6 little circular marks here. If it were a 6 volt, there would only be 3. All right, got the multimeter out. So let's see what the battery's at. Hopefully it's not too bad. 11.9. 11.9. I wouldn't expect there to be any issues then. That's a little below 12 volts, but everything should work fine. That's not good. Maybe there's an issue with the fuse. All right, so I think this is the fuse. Well, that could be our issue right there. This is a weird fuse. I don't even think this is a fuse. I think this is a breaker on, yeah, look at that. It looks like the post broke right off. I doubt that this is how it's supposed to be. It looks like someone soldered the wire straight to the post, and then this post just snapped completely off. I usually always buy the book for any bike that I have, and it's really nice when it comes supplied. XT600 and TT600, 1983 to 1989. So this is definitely the correct book. I found this spot in the book for circuit breaker on the XT600, and it shows in that picture with the little arrow. That's definitely this piece. Although it does say it's a 10 amp circuit breaker. My guess is they stripped off the end of the bullet connector and then just soldered on a new circuit breaker instead of wiring in a plug. For now is I'll just put a 10 amp fuse on here, and if there's a problem then the fuse will blow. I found this little fuse holder with the fuse in it. I can't even remember what I used this for. This is just sitting in my electrical box. But I clip enough to make sure that I can wire terminals on the end. 10A. So this is in fact a 10 amp fuse, which will be closer to the original than this 15 amp breaker. Let's go ahead and get these wired up. There's no way I'm going to reuse this post, so let's try and save as much of this as we can. Without crimping, let's get this on here, test fit, see how this fits over. I'm going to use a little bit of heat shrink. You definitely want to put the heat shrink on first, so you'll find that it won't fit. This heat shrink tube is probably a little too big for the wire, but it should fit nicely on the bullet end. All right, let's crimp this down. If you crimp a second time, you can loosen the original crimp. So just one good crimp is really all you want to do. Give it a little tug, make sure it's on there snugly. Put it right up on there. So there's one wire done. So let's go ahead and clip towards the end there. I like a little bit of length. First, we need our heat shrink. I like to stick to about the same, so that way it looks nice and uniform. Put the terminal end on. First, strip the wire. It's basically just going to be completely over it. That's okay. Now, since this wire is quite a bit smaller and thinner, I'm not going to pull too hard, just make sure it's snug, and it is. We'll get the heat shrink on there. Okay. Put the second male end on here. Now that we've got all the heat shrink ready, all the terminal ends on, I'm gonna get a heat source so we can shrink that up. I just don't like open flame in my garage. Turned out pretty good. These ends should fit right over. Not that this is necessary, but to me, it kind of looks a little bit more finished. And then of course, we wired it this way so we could replace easily. It's a little long, but that should work out just fine. So let's go put our adapted fuse holder on the bike. This end was connected here. Make sure that you connect these completely. So let's go ahead. Bullet in connects there. Pass it underneath the oil line. Now this will fit really snug, and because of the way this is, I might keep an extra fuse or two in here if this works out. So then that way we'll have extra fuses on the motorcycle. But that's not going to go anywhere, especially the way it tucks underneath. So get the battery back in there. Very windy day outside today. I don't know if you can hear that. Fit right over. There we go. Make sure to get a nice good connection right there. The battery strap back on. Oh, we got it. Now that we have the battery back in, look at that. Headlight is not on. All right, headlight works. Blinkers don't blink. I wonder if the bike has to be running for the blinkers to work. They are lighting up though. I think the taillight's not working. Brake light works. Foot brake. All right, so both brakes are working. Neutral light is working. High beam light is working. Turn signal light is working. All right, everything is working except the turn signal's not blinking. I wonder if the relay's bad. So far, so good. So according to the book, unless there's 12 volts, which there was only 11.9, which is not 12, then the flashers won't work. So what I've done is I've hooked the trickle charger up to the battery, and I know what you're thinking is, well, you've got black to positive and red to negative, but these aren't the correct clips for this charger. So you can see the red line runs into the black side. So we've got positive to positive, negative to negative, ignore the colors. Let's go ahead and see if this makes a difference. Still not blinking. The manual says that we need to remove the gas tank and the headlight assembly in order to reach the turn signal relay. But if you turn the handlebars all the way, looks like we get access to the relay here. I could see a little dent on it right away. Check the connections here. Maybe there's a little bit of corrosion or something. Oh, it's like one connector. They look a little corroded on there. Yep, some rust, some corrosion. Maybe it's just a bad connection. We'll start here with a little brass brush. You always want to start with the easiest stuff first because you never know. You could get lucky. It could also be a bad relay. Hopefully it's not anything other than that. Wow, look at how bad that is on this side. A corroded and rusted electrical connection will prevent something from working as expected. Next is actually the wire terminal ends, and I can see a good amount of rust in there. It's a lot more difficult to clean these, especially when they're still installed on the bike. So I'm going to try a carb cleaner wire. It's got a little bit of some texture to it to help clean out. Oh, I could see like little dust clouds puffing out of here. Electronic cleaner, quick drying formula. So we'll spray a little bit of that in here. And that should help us out even more. Got the terminals cleaned up pretty good. Same in here. I've been picking at these things for a little bit. One more thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of dielectric grease to the ends of these terminals, and that should help prevent any further rusting. Although, let's get this relay reinstalled. Okay, let's get the key in here. Moment of truth. No flashing. I don't think the bike has to be on for the relay for the flashing to work. All right, well, it was worth a shot. We'll have to try a new relay next. Just got back from the auto parts store. They had a replacement, 1034, dual filament with the correct offset little tabs. You see how one's higher than the other? That prevents you from putting them in there wrong. So this one had all of that. The lens is like a blue tint, but the color is supposedly brighter white. We'll see how that turns out. It should be an easy fix if that was actually it. Let's see, that fits. Let's see where we're at now. All right. Brake light, tail light. One step closer. Hell yeah. So the next steps to track down the flasher issue will be to remove the tank. There's no fuel filter on here. That is something that I will be adding. We'll see. And that's pretty typical. If you don't have a set of these and you have a Japanese bike, pick up a JIS screwdriver set. The headlight shroud appears to be in pretty good condition. They're not even very long. Bunch of connectors. Well, after digging through everything, checking all the connectors, everything looks like it's connected properly. I don't see any corroded plugs. Everything else works. I'm pretty sure it's just this flashing relay. So I'm going to order up a new one and install it when it comes. Well, I've got everything apart here. I'm gonna take a look at this horn button. See if we can't come up with something. The horn button's completely missing. And it seems like a common problem on these bikes. Too much time in the sun, and what ends up happening is the plastic breaks and then the spring shoves the rest of the button out. I found a replacement button online for 20 bucks. Prefer to not have to spend 20 bucks. I don't know if I can make a button, but we're gonna take a look and see what's going on in here. Top screw is short, bottom screw is long. A lot of the hardware on this bike is 10 mil. This is very easy. I don't have to mess with the wrench sizes at all. Maybe if I loosen the wire, it'll give me a little more space. Horn button is missing. Unfortunately, it does look like I have to take this off. Very carefully. Keep track of all these pieces and how they're set up. Okay, so this screw, little washer and bushing. These parts look good. This tiny little screw is on the verge of stripping out. I really don't think there's any other way though. Oh, got it. Little screw for the, looks like a ground. Okay. And out comes the horn piece. I wish this came out further, but it doesn't. So we'll have to make do. So I went looking for a separate piece on an unrelated project, and I realized that I had this kind of aftermarket control switch, and it had a horn button, and unfortunately this horn button just barely fits through the opening. Not by much. It's kind of like, I don't know, just a couple of mils. It's really close. So I had this idea, maybe if I took a washer and I fit this through a washer, it might actually hold. And unfortunately I didn't have a washer that fit perfect because the edge that you have to work with is very small. Look at that. So the tolerance there is really, really close. So I found this washer that fit pretty well, and I used a round file to open up the inner diameter, and then I'm using a piece of sandpaper here to just kind of get the last little bit here. So look at that. Now we got it. It fits perfectly on there, and that will allow the button to poke through here but stay behind there. And the spring will fit right around this post, and when completely depressed, the plunger sticks through and could potentially make contact. The way this works is this piece slides over this little tab, and the spring in this assembly goes on the inside. So we'll put the button in and then the spring. And now the spring goes on top of this, I think it's copper. The tab fits in this tiny little opening. Since it's spring loaded, I gotta be careful. I don't want to launch this thing across the garage. So before I couldn't figure out how the horn worked, but after I got it apart I realized this little bracket piece moves around the spring. And that's where that secondary contact comes in to close the circuit. Closed. Doesn't feel tight. It feels like something's. See, that's tab's not in there all the way. There we go. Okay. Now we'll compress this around this other tab. There might not be enough space. I think the horn is making contact. So the washer adds too much thickness. Unfortunately, the button is depressed here. Okay, let's see, what could we do about that? So I could either make this button shorter to allow more space, and I can try and make the washer a little thinner. Between this little tab and this button, that's how much space we have. And on this interior part, the contact is raised So you could tell there's just not enough space. And this washer has added drop down depth. So I'm going to try to thin the washer up a little bit, but mostly I'm going to try and flatten this post. So there is a little bit of corrosion here, and I'm just going to clean that up a bit. I'm not trying to make this post any smaller, just no point in having corrosion make it not fit. It'll make a better contact point anyway, even if I have to buy a proper button. It's pretty tricky to get this piece in here. Alright. There we go. It's pretty tight in there, but feels like there's space. I'm optimistic. Let's get it together and see if we turn the key, if the horn doesn't just start blaring. Now the other tricky part, because this button is a little longer. Come on, you're right there. I know it'll fit. I know it'll fit. Come on. That's real tight. Come on, it's right there. Look at that. Bam. It feels like you gotta press it. Okay, grab this ground. Probably should have cleaned up the corrosion a little better, but hey, we're in there now. Nothing. Damn. I was really hopeful that this would work. Let's put the rest of it back together again. Maybe that makes a difference. Yeah. And this is a little lock washer. And then this goes in here. I don't see how this is going to help at all. I'm going to test the horn after this. Maybe it's not the button at all. Maybe it's the horn. Alright, get that tightened down. The book has a diagnostic process, so I'm going to get the book and we'll start running through things now that we have a button installed. Third time's a charm. That lock washer goes under the switch but above the bushing. Now it's in there snug and works as expected. Looking at the horn, I see a little bit of corrosion on the post. Next up, the terminals. And there's a fair amount of corrosion on there. And fix the problem. It will definitely work better once we get the horn to work. Could probably use some more cleaning. But damn. Back to the drawing board. Before I get too crazy with diagnostics, maybe the horn will fire with these alligator clips. Positive, negative. So positive to positive. Now if there's a problem with the horn, it shouldn't work. But it will be loud, so I'm going to plug my ears. Horn works. I unhooked the battery. I'm going to have to rehook the battery up 1 second. Just go. Button works. You just got to kind of push it up at an angle. So to get the horn to work, you just kind of hit up. Yes, the horn works. Oh, that's so cool. It's so loud. So the button worked. Super happy about that. Took me about an hour and a half to make that horn button. One less thing to do. So now we're just waiting on a flasher relay. Well, I've got the tank off. It does look like there might be a little bit of an oil leak. This dust, the dirt has obviously been mixing with something. probably coming from the valve covers. So I'm going to clean all this up. Clean engine is easier to find leaks. It's starting to look pretty good. Also, I'm taking the brass brush to the exhaust, try to clean some of that rust off. You can see the other side. So those two are about the same. It's a little dirty. This side's harder to get at, but we'll keep working it. Just clean all this stuff up, clean up the wires. And this bike's not in bad shape at all. Relatively low miles, 10,200. Never want to use metal when you're scraping off stuff, but the back of the toothbrush works good too. It's not a very good point, but it helps pick off some of the big clumps. I'm not going too crazy over here, but you know, once you start cleaning stuff up, you notice other things look pretty bad. And this part of the pipe is very rusted, so I'm just gonna clean it off as good as I can. Hopefully get the rusting to stop. It's always a good idea to clean off heavy rust when you see it. I went to take the airbox cover off and it's missing a few hardware and is zip tied in place. I'm sure we'll have something when we dig through the hardware bin, but let's get this off of here and take a look at the air filter. There is one hardware here. Seems like 2 screws are enough to hold it on. The other zip ties help it seal. But when you're out riding around, you need to clean the air filter out pretty regularly. And zip ties are not going to cut it. I'm sure you could still find airbox lids, but they're probably not super cheap. There's a little bit of a split here. But overall in pretty good shape. Alright, let's see what we're looking at. Pretty dirty, but no mouse nest. So that's awesome. And the inside doesn't really look dirty. So that's a good sign. We might be able to just clean this up. I might just order a new one. But the box is pretty dirty, so I'm going to clean that out. But I took that lid off so I could have a little bit better access around here. One thing that I was noticing is I don't like how the ground looks here on the ignition coil. I need to take these screws out. And they look fine, but it doesn't hurt to put a little penetrating oil there just to kind of loosen up this dirt. Now the coil's totally disconnected. Look how bad the rust is. Like, that's where the ground goes, and there's quite a bit of corrosion. It's not terrible. Get that fresh exposed metal so the ground is strong. Clean up the spots where the ground sits. So we've got the terminal has been brushed out pretty good. It's got a nice shiny surface. Same with the contact points here. You can see how much those have cleaned up. That's where the ground goes. And the posts as well. I'm going to try and wash this one out. It's a really good air filter and it looks like it's relatively new. It does look like it's seen some writing, but the inside looks perfectly clean. And you don't want to blow this out with an air compressor, so I'm going to put some air filter cleaner on the outside, spray water from the inside out, and that should clean up enough. Like getting a new dirt filter and then riding through the desert, it's just going to be dirty instantly. Before I go on any kind of a road trip, I'll do an oil change and I'll change the oil filter and get everything nice and dialed. I got the new bulb in, I got the horn button fixed. So I think everything electrical should now be fixed with the exception of the blinkers. In order to get this thing back together again, it's going to take me a minute, but for you, it's only going to take me a second. So that was quick and easy. Everything's back together. The last thing we're going to do before I take it in to get it VIN checked is see if this flasher relay isn't the issue with the blinker not working. So the manual says you have to take the seat off and the tank off and everything in order to get to this, but you can really just get to it right here. Looks to be the same configuration. Key on, headlights on. Yes! We got flashers. Oh, that's such good news. Yes. Except for some of this more stubborn stuff, it cleaned that right off. The thing is shiny white now. Look at those wheels. I figured it would take off some of the grime, and it did. I was not expecting the plastics to clean up that much. Wow. The thing is white again. All my stuff got blasted. Small price to pay. There's a little bit of texture, so I'm gonna sand this down. That's the difference in color. So this like brownish color is the color that it was, and this bright white is what came out. You know, I'd have to scrape it and sand it. I didn't think the pressure washer would do that. I'm gonna start with 150. Yeah, this seems like a good place to start. It's really hard to tell if this is picked up in the camera or not, but I did half and half. Maybe it shows here, but also if you listen, you can kind of hear it. Like, that's pretty rough. It's obviously a lot smoother. There we go. All right, so that's the side that has not been sanded. That's the side that has been sanded. So quite a bit of difference you could tell between the left and the right there. And I still haven't done the smoother grit over here, just the 150. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish all of this up. Also the front plastic and the sides, and it's pretty boring stuff, so no need to film all of that, but you get the idea. I took some wet dry, a couple of different grits, got these plastics cleaned up a lot. They were very yellowed, now they're very white. The rims cleaned up really good too. We've got no gas, and I want to get a test ride in, and then I'm going to clean out the air cleaner, which requires it to dry overnight. So before I get the air cleaner off and start cleaning it up, I'm going to take it out for a bit of a ride down to the gas station. Let's go get some fuel. You better watch out, dude. This thing's loud. There's a little bit of fuel in there. Popping a lot. One of the other things I want to go through when I get it apart is the carburetor. I think it's running lean. We're like popping on deceleration. You see that? I know we're running low on fuel too. right at home on the road. I don't trust anybody. Oh, let's try using the turn signal. Gotta remember to turn the turn signal off. How much does it take to fill? 91. Let's see what we can put here. $2.50. $13. I guess we had around 0.75. 0.075. Yeah, so we were just about bone dry there. If I take the choke off now. They're building a brewery right here. Kind of cool. Turn off the fuel. All right, we're home.